こはどこなんでしょう。後ろ宮家の礼拝堂と思います。でもどことなく雰囲気が違います。それにリオン様という方がおられたなんて。なのに旦那様も奥様も親方様もお嬢様も親類の皆様も当たり前のようにお話をされています。何が何だか私わからなくて。
Oh, you and me both, Shannon. You and me
リオンは
both.
ベルンカステルが置いた駒だ。奴を置くためにさらに大きな猫箱に変えたとも言っていた。それだけでなく、どうもここはいくつかのかけらが継ぎはぎして作られた。
It's as though this is a special stage set up specifically for this game. I'm sure she's nodding at my thoughts right now, laughing and chomping down popcorn.
この世界のお前は何年
10年です。
I see. So it really is a special stage. After all, right when I entered the chapel, I spotted Kinzo. Since Shannon has been working here for 10 years, this world takes place in 1986, the stage of Beato's game. In that case, Kinzo shouldn't exist. However, he definitely was here a few minutes ago. Bernka still promised that all of the information needed for reasoning was gathered here. She must have really packed it together to fit everything in. I see, so it really is a special stage.
お前はそれだけの長い間ならベアトリーチェのことをどれだけ知っている？
親方様が深く愛された方くらいにしか。
それだけか？
あとそのロッケン島の夜の主と言われていて、
そうだ。
I mean, that is like the big story that was shared
夜
around.
な夜な屋敷を徘徊するとささやかれる亡霊の名もまた。
That brings the number of Beatrices to 3. The first is the Beatrice from more than 30 years ago, who is said to have given Kinzo the gold. The second is the Beatrice from 20 years ago, who met Rosa. The third is the Beatrice of the ghost stories, who's rumored to be the master of the night on Rokkenjima. This is actually a very interesting way to put it, because episode 6 showed that there are 2 Beatrices, the one that's messing around, and I guess like a newer Beatrice for Battler's side of things with the magic world. I guess you could say that that was the one that closely resembled the human Beatrice. The one that Rosa met, that
フィードエ
is.
リカの推理は正しいだろう。もともとロッケン島に存在した悪霊の伝説、そこに金蔵のオカルト趣味と謎の女、ベアトリーチェの名前や肖像が碑文が次第に加味されていき、黄金の魔女伝説に統合された。そして夜の闇が魔女という人格を得た。それが3人目のベアトリーチェだ。それが連続殺人犯のベールとなる。
Apparently, she didn't understand a word of Will's sudden monologue. Shannon tried to follow along, but she seemed to be having difficulty.
無理に理解するな。頭痛になら。
申し訳ございません。
Nah, you good, Shannon.
リオンのことを知らないのか？
はい、カノン君も私と同じでした。
Shannon and Kanon, is it?
カノンも呼んで二人に話が聞きたい。
When Will said these words, Shannon's face went blank and her eyes went wide.
申し訳ございません。受付を開けることは許されておりませんので、私には呼びに行くことができません。
なら誰か代わりを呼んできて受付を変わらせる。あんたとカノンと俺、リオンを知らない3人で一緒に話がしたい。
受付は一人でいいと仰せつかっております。
2人いちゃいけねえとは言われてねえはずだ。
本日は人手が足りませんので、受付に2人も不要と仰せです。
Why is she being so, like, difficult with this?
誰がそう命じた？金蔵か？クラウスか？それともリオンか？確認する。
Oh,
私の命令権者です。
What? What's going on here, Shannon?
私は命令に逆らえません。
その命令権者は誰だ？そいつに交渉する。
交渉などできません。私たちの命令権者です。
ここへカノンを呼べ。俺は拷問も感激も綺麗だ。
Slowly, Will pulled his right hand out of his pocket. When he slowly opened his fist, a small bright glow emanated from it. The flower petal given to him by Bernkastel had become a glowing, sparkling mark on his hand. He held that hand out towards Shannon and slowly approached her.
カノンを呼べ。お前たちに確かめたいことがある。
お呼びできません。それでもなお、それをご希望ですか？
It's like she's a robot or something here.
呼ばねえなら、お前を感激する。
どうしてもとおっしゃるのでしたら、特別にお呼びすることもできますが。
Like a malfunctioning robot here. This is so weird. There was some kind of incomprehensible tension between the two. Will stood there, his left hand still in his pocket and his right palm glowing and stretched out towards her. Shannon just stood there, her hands still folded politely in front of her. Her posture beautiful. And yet it felt oddly as though windswept drops of rain were sparking and cracking in midair. Crackling, sorry.
カノン君を呼んでまいりますが。
Oh no, they're changing the font up on us now.
よろしいですか？
Will's expression had remained unchanged the whole time. Shannon's face was still kind of gentle, and yet the tension was as icy as a frozen lake. Beginners in chess will sometimes move their king into check without noticing it. One might mercilessly capture the king in the situation, but high-level players are supposed to calmly tell their opponent about their mistake. If you take one more step, you'll get captured. And this was similar to that. I see. So after all...
もう分かった。十分だ。二人で交代で受付を頼む。
Slowly, Will lowered his hand.
ご理解いただけまして助かります。
So, would something bad have happened if we tried to do this? Why? The glow slowly vanished from Will's palm. That completely incomprehensible tension melted away, like a sugar cube in water. However, nothing had changed since the beginning. Will's expression and Shannon's expression were the same as they always had been.
おや、お帰りですか?
Footsteps approached them. It was Leon.
立ち話をしていただけだ。こいつに聞きたかったことがあったんだな。
それは何でしょう。そしてそれは得られましたか？
ああ。
お役に立てて光栄です。
それは残念。傘をお探しのようでしたら、すぐにでもご用意させましたのに。
金蔵に話はついたのか？
珍しい客人が挨拶をしたがっていると伝えました。お会いするそうです。
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたいとは伝えたのか？
それはあなたの仕事でしょ?
With a slightly mischievous look, Leon turned away. Will scratched his head and shrugged, looking annoyed. I'm getting head and hand mixed up for some reason.
こいつを試すだけの話だ。
Will opened his right hand and showed it to Leon. It was just a hand without anything remotely remarkable about it. Leon's head tilted to the side in bafflement at this strange gesture.
ご苦労様です。君の名前は確か。
シャノンです。
そうだった。シャノンでしたね。
It's like she's not even familiar with those that actually work here.
引き続き受付をよろしく頼みます。肩を冷やさないように。
ありがとうございます、リオン様。
Shannon bowed deeply in response to Leon's kind words. There was not even a trace of tension in her manner.
参りましょう、ビル。せっかく時間をいただけたのです。当主様の機嫌は秋の空より変わりやすいですよ。
いってらっしゃいませ。
行くか。
That was so strange, guys. That was so odd. But by the way, hello everyone, my name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, episode 7. And the previous episode, Will really got going with talking with people in order to figure out if he can, deduce anything right off the bat. We didn't get that far. It was pretty much just a review of the story that we got from Rosa in episode 3, maybe a little bit of added details on what happened afterwards, but nothing that's really going to point us in any other direction. But it is worth noting, kind of what was discussed to start this video, is that we seem to have multiple Beatrices, which obviously there shouldn't even be any that have existed. The idea of Beatrice, whoever or whatever she's supposed to be, there are multiple of that floating around, and that's the idea to have in mind. Kinzo and Genji could be seen in the VIP room. Kinzo was sitting back in a chair, his eyes closed as though in a troubled sleep. Hello, sir. Kinzo slowly opened his eyes. Those eyes were red from crying. They regained their focus and slowly fell on Will.
Ushiromiya Kinzo である。
ウィル。
ウィラードだ。お悔やみ申し上げる。
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に訪ねてくるとは、そなたは何者なのか。
誰でもない。誰とも関係ない。深く考えるな。頭痛になら。
もう少し言葉遣いにご注意をお願いいたします。
おかしな客人だ。
I was actually going to say, I'm pretty sure this is a type of guest, a type of person that Kinzo would like to talk to about, anything, really.
それで、この私に何用か。
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたい。
何？
Kinzo's gaze grew sharp. Leon felt a bit lightheaded and wondered why this guy had to be so direct.
聞いてどうする？お前は誰でもないのであろうが。ベアトリーチェのことを知ってどうするという。何の意味があるというのか。
俺が誰でもないからこそお前の物語を公正に聞き、お前はじきにこの世を去るだろう。その時ベアトリーチェのことを何も語らずに死んだなら、お前の子供たちは彼らが好き勝手に考えた物語でベアトリーチェを就職し
面白い若造だ。お前は遺言屋を気取ろうというわけか。
That is something that he has discussed way early on in episode 1.
だが、それは余計なお世話というものよ。ベアトリーチェは私だけのベアトリーチェだ。誰が何を語ろうとも、私とあれの物語は誰にも怪我せぬ。
Oh, we got very defiled in episode 5. That all got really fucked up.
クラウスたちがどう曲解しようとも、痛くも痒くもないわ。
ウィラード様、親方様は遺言を好まれます。生きているうちより何事かを投げ出すお方ではございません。
だろうな。らしからぬこととは思っていた。
誠意ある限りあがいてこそ人間であろうが、それを早々に諦め遺言に残そうという浅ましさなど少子千万。
確かにその方がお前らしい。死ぬかもしれないから過去語りを記せと言い出すのは確かにお前の柄じゃねえ。
当主様がベアトリーチェ様のことを深く深く愛しておられたことは存じ上げております。私たちにとって当主様は最大の尊敬の対象であるとともに生きるすべての模範です。どうか迷える私たちのために、いかにしておじい様が彼女を愛し抜いたか、その愛の強さを私たちにお導きくださるようお願いすることはできないでしょうか。
なかなか達者だ。
あなたが言葉を選ばないからです。
若ず、お前はベアトリーチェの何を知っているというのか。真に無知なる者は関心さえ持たぬ。 ベアトリーチェの名を知っている時点で無知なるものではなく
道理だな。俺が知っているベアトリーチェはお前がかつてロッケン島に屋敷を設ける以前に出会った。しかしおそらくは死別して娘を残した。それがクアドリアンで育てられていた娘だ。
And if we really want to connect real people with real people, the Beatrice that actually existed was probably Virgilia. That was probably her, who we had seen in the very beginning of episode 3, the original Beatrice. And then there was a younger Beatrice that was there probably. That was the one that actually spoke with her. And the idea of magic was first brought up into her mind, to be an apprentice of sorts, even so everything with magic was just a trick.
ウィラード様、当ロッケン島にはクアドリアンなる建物は存在いたしません。
そのクアドリアンという名前、さっきローザおばさんと話した時にも口にしていました。それは一体何なんですか？
Yeah, if we can get more information on that, that'd work great.
察しはついてるはずだ。愛人の娘を囲うロッケン島の森の奥深くにある隠し。
面白い。クワドリアンの名を知ろうとはな。続けよ。お前に興味が出たぞ。
Kinzo shrugged and grinned.
クアドリアンにいたのはベアトリーチェの娘だろう。だが少なくともお前はそうは思っていなかった。
ほう、ならば何だと思っていたというのか。
Oh, that's what we want to know.
後ろ宮ローザはクアドリアンにて多少の身の上話を交わしている。その中でベアトリーチェはお前のことを指して金蔵と呼んでいる。これはお前を前にしても同じだ。彼女はお前を父と思っていると言ったにもかかわらず呼ばなかったのか、呼ぶことは許されなかったのか。それが意味することは一つしかない。
それは何だというのか。
生まれ変わりだ。お前は娘を忘れがたみだとは思わなかった。死んだベアトリーチェが新しい体で蘇ったと信じたんだ。源氏、あんたはかつて夏日たちの前で金蔵とベアトリーチェに子供はいなかったと証言したことがあるな。
記憶にございませんが。
Of course, this game's Genji probably wouldn't remember that. I mean, that's how things get a little confusing here whenever you're like, as it was stated in the beginning of this video, a lot of different fragments kind of sewn together. However, near the end of the first game, when the survivors had all gathered in Kinzo's study, Genji was asked whether Kinzo and Beatrice had ever had a child together. And he denied it, saying, I have not heard of anything like that.
聞いたことがないか。ある意味で金蔵の腹心らしい模範的な返答と言える。何しろ金蔵にとってその娘は生まれ変わりであって娘ではないんだから。
ウィル、何の話か分かりませんが、当主様への冒涜は許しません。
I don't think there's any slandering going on here.
冒涜じゃねえ、推理だ。だが心は理解する。ベアトリーチェはお前にとって最愛の女だった。死んでも色褪せることなく永遠に。だが美しい金髪に青い瞳を持ち、お前は次第に生まれ変わりではないかと信じるようになったとしても、それはおかしいことじゃね
え。親方様、よろしいのですか。
Shall I drag this rude child out? Genji asked Kinzo. For a while, Kinzo hung his head in silence as though remembering something from his own past.
娘は美しく育ち生き写しになった。お前は狂気したろうな。だがそれでお前が全て満たされていたかは怪しい。なぜならお前にとってベアトリーチェは生まれ変わりであっても当の本人にとってはそうではなかったからだ。
なぜそのようなことがわかるのか。
本人は自分がベアトリーチェと呼ばれることに違和感を拭えずにいた。人は生まれながらに与えられた自分の名前に違和感を覚えることはない。 だが彼女は覚えた。それはベアトリーチェという名が自分のものではないこと。
It was the name of her
彼女は
mother.
自覚していたに他ならない。
And whoever Beatrice initially was, the human Beatrice, she actually had her own name. The name that she was given at birth by her mother. But with her mother now gone, Kinzo kind of just slapped the name Beatrice on her. The idea of her carrying on the Beatrice really, I guess, soul. In Kuwadorian, she asked both Kinzo and Rosa about who she was.
わらわは何者なのか。皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。わらわはその魔女の魂をこの身に封じられているだけなのだ。
And I guess that's the how the idea of a homunculus or some sort of not so legitimate human being coming to be about. If you take what she's saying so seriously, then yeah, she's not going to seem human. It's going to seem like some crazy experiment was done to her, but the reality of it is that she's just kind of been locked up here with a different identity thrown on her.
いずれ戻ったのだ。あれは紛れもなくベアトリーチェの生まれ変わり。記憶は戻りつつあった。我が魔術の儀式によってわずかずつではあるが記憶を取り戻しつつあった。
Were they actually, though?
当主様。
驚くことじゃねえ。これまでのゲームの情報を並べりゃ導かれる。そのままの答えだ。上層のベアトリーチェはそれを指して死んで逃れた魔女の魂を逃さずそして記憶も力も封じられていると例えた。その解釈もこの推理なら筋が通る。
ウィラード様、親方様は偉大なる魔法の儀式により亡きベアトリーチェ様の生まれ変わりの赤子を得たのでございます。それを否定することはできません。
コウノトリを否定はしねえ。そして金蔵がどれだけベアトリーチェという女を深く愛していたかも忘れがたみにどういう愛情を注ぐかは人の勝手だ。育つほどに似ていくその姿に金蔵が愛ゆえに特別な感情を持ったとしても俺はそれを人間らしい感情だと思うぜ。
I mean, yeah, it's I don't know if you can call it like understandable. I mean, human emotions and all that, the attachments that we have towards people, it can be a little strange at times, don't get me wrong. But I do feel like this is all a little far-fetched, you know?
お前に我が愛が理解できるというのか。
理解する資格はねえ。だが否定する資格もね
おベアトリーチェ、私を許してくれ。
Kinzo sobbed quietly for a while, wiping away his tears. Because of love, he believed that she was Beatrice reborn and raised her that way. However, somewhere in his heart, he might have felt pangs of conscience, telling him that he might be forcing his emotions on someone who wasn't really Beatrice. Then the Beatrice of Kuwadorian had an unexpected guest, Rosa. And that woman simply couldn't believe that she was the Beatrice that Kinzo desired. She couldn't stand the fact that she didn't understand who she was, and she wanted to escape to the outside world. Now that's understandable. Being locked away for whatever reason, and wanting to see what's truly out there, to know the truth, especially about herself, I get that. Things just didn't work out really well there, obviously. You know, for being the supposed reincarnation of Beatrice, she didn't really do a great job. Then she fell from the cliff and died.
現時は表に出せぬその死を内々で処理した。そう仕切ったのは 死者のためにやるんじゃねえ。生きてる人間が死んだ人間への未練を断ち切るために行うもんだ。それができなかった。だからただれたんだ。
ベアトリーチェ。
おじい様。
あんたは愛人の娘を、いやベアトリーチェを二度失った。その悲しみを表に出すことができず、胸の奥に押し込み、それがやがてただれて狂気に変わった。それが晩年まで異常なまでのオカルト趣味に駆り立てる。
ベアトリーチェ、ベアトリーチェ。なぜに二度までも私の前から去るのか。お前の微笑みを、その美しい髪を、瞳を、私は二度も抱きしめながら、なぜに二度も死すのか。それほどまでに私を。
My god, man. By now, Kinzo wasn't even trying to suppress his sobs. He sometimes scratched at his head in anguish, sometimes faced the heavens like an opera singer. Kinzo yelled over and over again, repeating Beatrice's name. Okay, so that kind of resolves like two of our Beatrices, but then there's the third one, the one that's causing mischief over at the, I guess, present day Rokkenjima, you know, Beatrice of the Night, which I guess you could say could be like maybe Genji again, just trying to like, by his like own free will, trying to keep the spirit of Beatrice alive. Or maybe some others are doing it as well. But when it comes to the deaths, I truly believe that it's a case of like multiple people just trying to do some fucked up things, and with the idea of Beatrice in mind in so many ways, she gets basically painted as the culprit, and therefore magic is utilized. At that moment, there was a quiet sound of a door closing. Oh, hello. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa had appeared.
そこまでをご存知でしたら、もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのではありませんか?
I guess it shouldn't be too surprising that she would actually know some details.
そこまでを知るなら、これ以上何も語ることなどないとも思うが。
いいえ、語るべきでございます。私は女として、クワドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました。そして、その資格を持つ人間が現れました。今こそ、すべてを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます。
熊沢さんは知っているのですか、ベアトリーチェのことを。
知ってるだろう。第4のゲームの時、連絡船の船長は熊沢がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。おそらく熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で異なる勤務シフトを持っていたに違いない。若い娘の世話だ。育児経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
さようでございます。乳母であったとおっしゃっていただいてもよろしいかと思います。
そんな、信じられない。本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか?
Well, yeah, are you now catching on to that, Leon?
はい、事実でございます。ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷、クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
But the Kuwadorian had to have existed basically during basically Rokkenjima becoming Kinzo's in the first place. So back when the original Beatrice was alive, that was her own mansion that he had constructed for her. And then it was utilized basically as a prison for the reincarnated Beatrice, if you will, the one that Rosa had met.
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち、六軒島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建てて、そこに2つの生活を両立させたんだ。
Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities at the time. It probably hadn't been easy to maintain two separate lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and had sniffed around all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限りクワドリアンへ通われました。時にはご出張と偽られ、何日も滞在され、
He was always on the island.
ベアトリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。それは親子としての関係だけでなく、亡きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあったと言っているようにも聞こえるな。
おや、そう聞こえたなら申し訳ございません。
Unless Kuwadorian truly was built specifically for the reincarnated Beatrice, and the original, it was long gone, I'm not necessarily sure.
ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょう。しかし時にご自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは否定できません。
At the very least, this truly does seem like a case of not necessarily Kinzo going off because he has a mistress, but yeah, he was trying to take care and spend time with somebody that he thought was actually Beatrice born again. Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though that she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who had raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was sometimes misplaced. However, the more that she grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted.
なじれ、我が友よ。分かっておる。我が愛は永遠に不滅。なれど、それが間違った相手に注がれたことがあったの。私は認めねばならぬ。
おじい様、そんな、まさか。
ギオン様、世の中のすべての人間にはかなり身に覚えがなくとも必ず何かの縁がございます。その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
そんな、おじい様。
Just as Kinzo had done, Leon had wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently, the truth had been too much of a shock for the young successor to handle. It is some pretty crazy shit here. But I am glad that we're finally getting clarity on it.
親方様、もう語る時ではございませんか。
そうか、その時が来たか。
あんたが語らなきゃ何も真実は明らかにならない。
親方様、もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思います。
Yeah, it's nice to finally have somebody who has the qualifications for it.
分かっている。今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与えたのだろう。今日まで話さなかったことを言う。
After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face and looked at Will and Leon with those red eyes.
おじい様。
ギオンも聞け。客人よ、ウィラードと言ったか。
ああ、
この私が自らの口より真実を話せるうちに、お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わされた天の使いに違いない。
Yeah, sure. If that makes you more comfortable in speaking, then why not?
感謝する。
その機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃねえ。どこぞの魔女だ。いや、どっちも魔女には違いねえ。
お前が誰でもよい。私に機会を与えた。それで十分だ。感謝するぞ、ウィラードとやら。
Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hand. He was offering to shake hands. It must have been Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude. Will responded, and then the two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. Will felt as though something the size of a grain had been burned into his palm. It was the power that Burnkastil had given him. The light grew brighter and brighter. However, it seemed that Kinzo and the others couldn't see it.
今こそ語ろう。私がベアトリーチェにベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったのは終戦間際。
Oh, now we have a full name here.
彼女は海の向こうからやってきた。
Oh boy. We finally get to know about the original Beatrice. The one that Kinzo had met. Finally. What's going on here, though? Oh. A young Kinzo.
お前は金蔵なのか？
昔のおじい様です。写真で見たことがあります。これは一体。
ベルンカステルのくれた感激者の力だ。無理に理解するな。
頭痛になら
分かってきたな。
You know, it makes things easier. At one time, Genji told Battler that he looked like Kinzo in his youth, and yeah, I can kind of see it, actually. They have that same type of expression. Sure enough, though the young Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar.
改めて名乗ろう。私がUshiromiya Kinzoである。
Okay, I'm pretty sure they're using the same voice actor, too.
おじい様。
Even the voice seemed to resemble Battler's somehow. Gee, I wonder how. Clearly, Battler had inherited Kinzo's blood more thickly than any other.
私はUshiromiya家など継ぎたくはなかった。私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
関東大震災で主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
そうです。おじい様は若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でしたから。
とんでもない。欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかったのだ。まるで沈みゆく船で新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさよ。
だからこそ本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
全てはこの足の指のせいだ。足の指が一本ずつ足りなかったのだ。我が人生は全く異なるものになっていたであろう。
Yeah, but he had that deformity. In the Ushiromiya family, polydactyly was seen as a mark of good fortune. After all, many of the great ones in their family history had possessed it.
くだらぬ話よ。長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば誰でもよかったのだ。
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入り、それでいいと決まったわけか。
Also, I'm just realizing that Kinzo always had like a white or gray color of hair. That is so unfortunate.
そういうことだ。長老どもは自分たちの操り人形になるならどこの青二歳でもよかったのだ。むしろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
おじい様。
リオン、お前は違う。お前は我が全てを受け継ぐものだ。お前が生を受けた日よりそれは運命づけられていた。だからこそお前に銀の指輪を与え厳しく育ててきた。そなたは私とは違う。誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
はい。
操り人形の当主、気楽なものじゃねえだろうな。
As he pondered about where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. It would probably bring back some painful memories no matter where he started from.
あれはあまりに長い。それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような。
I became the rope in the tug of war between the elders who thought of nothing but their own profit. and I probably could have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. And though I spent so many days as though I had been killed, I was not killed. So I was forced to search for death on my own. Before I realized it, I had reached an age at which the young would laugh at me if I tried to call myself young. That dizzyingly long stretch of gray was left completely empty. It lasted for a full 20 years. In 20 years, a person can be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. In short, if one truly becomes a human only when they have become a working adult. And I spent a period of time long enough to create a human. But doing nothing but playing the sort of those greedy elders part, or I'm elders puppet, excuse me. Ironically, though that time aged my body, it did not age my mind. My mind alone was still as young as it had been during those rich happy days before I was summoned to Otoara. And yet my body alone grew older and older. Eventually the vast gap between the two reached almost incomprehensible levels. So I could hardly believe that the worn-out man in the mirror was really me. No, it really wasn't me. The head of the Ushiromiya family was just a name. It had no power. It didn't require that I have my independence, I have any independence, and there was no need for me to get involved with anything. I was just a doll sitting there on the doll rack, gathering dust. I remember nothing but lazily flipping through Western books I liked, locking myself up inside my own world, doing nothing but playing with roses and drinking terrible drinks, and it lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I suddenly had a wife that I did not know. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. It was the daughter of some noble family that the elders had chosen and forced on me for their own reasons. But that did not matter to me. I did not love my wife, but neither did I dislike her. I just didn't care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for my wife. They were just born before I knew it. And that's all there was to it. None of it mattered. No, that's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. That was the job of the Ushiromiya family head.
ああ、このまま自分は静かに殺されるなど。
信じられません。強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
Yeah, that sounds like hell.
リオンよ、自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。なのに、それはあっという間に過ぎ去るのだ。心せよ。
自ら生きる人生。
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。殺された日々だったろうよ。
そうだ、私は生きたかった。いや、死にたかった。操り人形はどうすれば死ねる？
糸を断ち切ることです。
そうだ、それが死ぬことであり、生きることであり、解放だ。
Before I realized it, trouble was brewing in the world. World War II. The Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west, and the tide of war was changing. Yeah, I got really fucky. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. And of course, this was not out of compassion for me. It was because I was their precious puppet. So the war never really felt that close to me. However, when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. At that time, the Ushiromiya family had almost completely collapsed. And since the elders had apparently gathered enough of the scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed to care little for what I did, now that they no longer had any use for me. So I realized that I had finally found my time to die. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from and began to search for a place to end my life.
戦地で死を求
同じ死ぬなら誰かの役に立つべきと思った。いや、違うな。私には自らの命を絶つ気力さえなかったのだろう。もっともらしく死ねる理由が戦争だったのだ。
おじい様は土木建築の知識がありましたので、海軍設営隊にて施設造成などに従事されたと聞いています。
とんだ誤算よ。何の取り柄もないと言っておけば、すぐにも死ねる最前線へ送られたものを。
最前線に行かずに済んだのか。
幸いと喜ぶ仲間もいたよ。私には逆だった。戦って死ぬという出来すぎた美酒の焼け酒が欲しかっただけなのだ。忘れられた島の上空を米軍の編隊は横切っていくだけ。彼らは私のために爆弾一つどころか鉛玉の一つさえ恵んではくれなかったのだよ。
おじい様はその日々の中でベアトリーチェにお会いになられたのですか？
そうだ。あれは海からやってきた。
どこで会った？島と言ったが。
ここだよ。この島にやってきたのだ。
お前たちはロッケン島で出会っていたというのか。
どういうことですか？おじい様がロッケン島を買い取るまでは無人島だったと聞いています。この島に日本軍の基地があったなどとは初耳。
そうだな。あんなものは基地とは呼ばぬ。ただの岩窟よ。私はその岩窟の番人だったのだ。
That is so crazy that Rokkenjima served that sort of purpose. It served as a setting such as this. 1944. Yeah, it's definitely wartime. Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry shown at Pearl Harbor gone? The old attackers were now the ones on the defensive. At that time, it was said that the last trump card for the Japanese military was a type of manned torpedo known as the Kaiten. It was said that these ultimate weapons, packed with 1.55 tons of explosives, were capable of sinking any kind of warship with a single blast. To strengthen homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from Hachijo Island to Yokosuka, all to house submarines loaded with Kaiten torpedoes.
八丈島に基地が作られたことは知っていました。しかしそれがロッケン島にもあったなんて。
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。一苦情の都合バカバカしい。お上の考えることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだった。
The Kaiten, which could finish off a large warship with a single strike, truly was an ultimate weapon. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons in the waters just off of Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line of defense. So, to aid in the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island Rokkenjima was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs, and this was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
建設岩窟を掘り広げただけを建設と呼ぶならな。しかもその上、基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
どうしてです？
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。滑稽な話だ。潜水艦もないのに潜水艦基地など今さら必要なものか。役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬわ。
The base on Hachijo Island was outfitted with Kaiten torpedoes and became a base for direct attacks, but Rokkenjima was never supplied with any. Furthermore, the construction was eventually suspended. It's like, yeah, what was even the point? And a minimum of men were stationed on the island waiting for orders from above that never came. So yeah, it was just a waste of time. Could the fact that it was a hidden base actually have sealed our fate? The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cave. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt. all the while gazing up at the American formations flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospects of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here, and before any of us had to face a real battle. Of course, it was the opposite for me. I hoped for the American troops to advance and kill me as soon as possible. That's why he even joined up in the first place, and he didn't even get what he wanted. Those days were empty and blank. Let us go back to the turning point in my life and my fate. The time that Ushiromiya Kinzo had finally became truly alive. But then, oh, nope, that's it. That's all we get in this one. Damn. God damn, man, these chapters are short. We're just flying by. But I guess we get to, like, you know, straight up continue off, like, with this story right here. So I guess we'll take it as an okay place to call it for this one. With the Salo Republic, Chapter 4. So making some good progress here. I don't know how many chapters there are to this one, but I will assume, even so this is a bit of a different episode, I'll assume the same amount of, like, somewhere around 15 or more, maybe closer to 20. But man, if the chapters are going to be short like this, we're going to fly by this episode for sure. But yeah, guys, we're finally getting to, we're finally able to try and piece things together here. We're understanding who Beatrice truly was. We're actually getting the backstory that I have actually really wanted. We get to see what Kinzo went through. We get to see who Beatrice was. And we basically got the confirmation that the Beatrice that Rosa met wasn't exactly Beatrice. That was basically just, you know, the idea of Beatrice that's been painted for all of us, you know? When we think of Beatrice, it's that woman that Rosa saw. I don't know why, but I guess it is. And I guess it doesn't help that the painting that Kinzo was able to put up resembled who Beatrice was supposedly reincarnating to, not who she originally was. Unless they do look very similar. I don't know. We're maybe going to find out in the next one. I really hope we do. Thank you all for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I sure did. I'm definitely down for this backstory. If you enjoyed it, though, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.